in most Asian society, including my country and your country, unfortunately, our elite are educated in the West, and they adopt. Let's talk about my country first, because in the last 100 and since the mid 19th century up to now, so more than 170 years, we blindly follow Western way of thinking through education. We send our elite to be educated in the West, start with the sons of the kings, went to Eton, went to Oxford, Cambridge, and then these people come back to run the country, during the mid 19th century onward, and have played quite important role in negotiating with the West, so that we are not, completely colonized. Economically, we are colonized, definitely.
Different kind of colonization.
Yeah. But then this elite, they went abroad when they were young. So when they came back, they don't understand their root, and they want to follow Western path. And then this is up until the Second World War. And after that, then we got the American influence. More or less, it's a new kind of imperialism that dominates our country heavily. Again, we send our elite. Now it's not only the sons and the relatives of the kings and queens, but now it's the ordinary commoner, like the merchants, like the military people, like government officers. Their son and daughter went abroad, and then they came back again, become the elite, become a technocrat, become lecturer in university, become teachers. So these are people who are adopted Western idea without critical awareness. Very few have critical awareness of what is the good and bad side of Western education. Most of us are wholeheartedly, most of my teachers are wholeheartedly embrace Western education. So the drawback of this kind of educations, from my point of view, number one, this is part of the Western way of thinking. The whole mindset is human need to conquer nature, believe in progress in terms of science and technology, and this kind of progress is linear. So when they look back at our ancestors, it's all bad or obsolete. So we have to move forward into the future. And if you live in Bangkok, you are better than people in Chiang Mai. If you live in Chiang Mai, you are better than people in Om Goi. If you're in the small town Om Goi, you are better than people who live in the forest. So this kind of linear progress belief also very harmful for me. The third aspect of this weakness of this Western education is individualism. I mean, this is part of modernization, where individual become the pillar of all the political philosophy, modern political philosophy, both liberal, socialist, and even the social democrat. Everything is centered around the individual. So this promotion of individualism, when it go further and further to the extreme, So it's become very selfish kind of individual. On top of that, also come with competition, and you know, if you don't compete, you are left behind. So you have to compete, so that compete will encourage technological development, economic growth, etc., etc. Which is some fact in that. But when it goes to extreme, people are not happy when you have to compete from kindergarten, you know, until university. And my country, maybe not extreme as Singapore or Japan, but on the way. A lot of young people get depressed, commit suicide because of this system of competition in education. I think these are, you know, conquering nature, belief in linear progress, individualism, competitions, and materialism. You know, the basic idea of modernization is materialism. We saw the whole universe as material stuff. Unlike our ancestors, who we saw split in the tree, you know, split in the river, the mountain. We saw our ancestor worldview is nature is a living being, not a dead material that we should exploit or we can exploit. So it's very different, you know. For example, when the current people want to use the water, they ask permission to use the water, because the water belongs to the whole cosmos, doesn't belong to human being alone. So this kind of worldview we lost and replaced by this materialism. I think these are a few weaknesses of modern education that promote this sort of values. You know, I first went to Myanmar in 1994, and that reminds me of my childhood, because many things we lost through modernization. At that time, Myanmar still have it. I went to first to Myitkyina, and you know, the Myitkyina is so beautiful town. The whole town have 2 cars from the Second World War. Otherwise, all bicycle. You know, big, huge trees. So I feel that's quite a living society, and people are still very much living in community. You know, this sort of thing I saw in 1994, and people are quite proud of themselves, have strong self-respect. Whether you are Burma or Karen or Kachin, they all feel, you know, proud of themselves. They have their own dresses, the lungi everywhere, you know. The temple and the church are packed on the, you know, religious holidays. So it's, for me, I don't want to romanticize, you know, that kind of situation. But number one, spirituality is still there. People still have belief. You know, unlike Bangkokian, who don't have any more belief. People still live in community. Unlike Bangkokian, who you live next door to each other, you don't know each other. You rarely talk to each other. That's that kind of Bangkok you should learn. And also, I mean, in a way, most people are in your country at that time, they are live a simple life. From the World Bank technocrat, they may say this is poor people. They don't spend they spend less than $1, $2 a day. But why need to spend money? Because they can get fish,
Everything.
they can get vegetable from the field,
Yeah.
you know.
Or gold.
Yeah, they have eggs. If their relative get sick, they sold their cow or goat. And if you don't have goat or cow, your neighbor sold it for you and lend you the money. You know, this sort of thing. The sense of community is so strong. You know, human happiness. You know, if you don't have relationship, even you have a lot of money, you are depressed. You are sad, you know, loneliness. Human being is part of the mammal community. We need community. We need good friends. And when I first went to Burma, that's very strong. At the time, 1994, we gone through this uprooting process. Thai society went through the uprooting process for nearly 100 years. And we lost so much of those, including we lost the spirituality of Buddhism as well. We have big temple, we have fancy building, the monk live like in the palace. The Buddha left the palace to be the beggar, but the monk now living like in palace. It doesn't have any spirituality. That's religion, but no spirituality. Only very few monks living in the forest traditions to keep the spirit ongoing. They are very important, but comparatively they are the minority in my country. At least in your country, you have a lot of lineage of teachers of meditation, you know. You may don't like the 50 years of crossing the country, but it have pro and con, you know, this crossing the country. And your ancestors not stupid. They think carefully. But unfortunately, you know, you under this Burmese chauvinistic attitude encouraged by the military to keep people under control and make divide and rule so that the minorities become the second-class citizen. I think that's the drawback, you know, of society like Myanmar. But in other aspects, we are a really rich country, much richer than we are. The same climate, you know. We used to be really rich, but now our river is poisoned with so much chemical. Our forests were cut, and all these sort of things happening. So we are. In a way, Thai people are very unlucky. We have been uprooted. We no longer proud, have a deep self-respect, self-esteem. We become arrogant, we become shallowly confident, but deeply we don't feel we are good enough. We want to follow the West, follow Japan, now follow China, you know. You can't be yourself, you have to catch up with others all the time. Where is happiness? No, when you talk about education,
Yeah, you can also define.
Yeah,
from your
this is-
perspective. What does it mean?
yeah, this kind of education we adopt from the West, it's a kind of mental colonization. It makes you feel who you are is not good enough. You have to be someone else. You have to have something else. What you have is not enough. Who you are is not good enough. You have to be someone else. And this uprooting, this kind of education we adopt from the West, it's a kind of mental colonization. It makes you feel who you are is not good enough. You have to be someone else. You have to have something else. What you have is not enough. who you are is not good enough. You have to be someone else. And this uprooting, in this, at least in my country, that's how rural people are not proud of being a farmer. So they left the farm, become the workers, become, if they are more fortunate, they become the white collar, working in the bank, in the, you know, yeah, in the government offices, etc., etc. So education in this way is a kind of uprooting process that make people alienated from their own root. And during the past 50 years, of course, the country is expanding, industrializing, so we need, you know, this kind of middle class work clerks, you know, working in different company, working in the office, or super clerk like university teachers, you know. These are one reason of education. But when you think of the future, many of the clerk work will be replaced by AI. So the role of university in the past doesn't give a promising future, because you're educated and you have no job, because AI is working for you. Just example, in my country, lots of people are laid off from the bank. You know, bank used to be very secure work, but no longer. You know, my wife working in the high-data airline, now it nearly went bankrupt. Just renew again, slowly, you know. So the university used to function as a producing technocrat, clerk for different companies, government officers, but less and less they will be needed. So if we still keep this higher education ongoing, it have to be different kind of higher education. The knowledge that used to be very difficult to find, now you can find in your bedroom. You turn on, you can listen to the Harvard lecture. You know, Michael Sandel talk about justice, very popular in the US. Now everyone can listen to him. So the function of the university is changing dramatically. And for the sustainable future, I think we have to rethink education a lot. I think E.F. Schumacher idea about two kinds of knowledge is very important. So far, most universities give the kind of technical knowledge, you know, what he call convergent knowledge. Knowledge that can accumulate, that can develop further and further without end, you know, from computer, AI, and now you can create what you call artificial sun.
Artificial?
Sun.
Oh.
You know, you have the sun and the moon, now they can create artificial sun. And that will have dramatic change of all the technology that we are using now. At least they are partially successful in China now. So this kind of knowledge is make your life more convenient. It can be harmful, it can be helpful. Like we now realize that the fossil energy is very harmful. That's why we have global warming. But it can be helpful, you know. I'm surviving Now, because of the modern operation, more surgery that can cut part of my colon that have cancer out, and I'm still talking to you now. Otherwise, I will be gone. Since last year. However, even you can have operation and survive. It's different from the knowledge that make you happy. The more knowledge that nourish your relationship with your family, with your friends, with your relative, is a different kind of knowledge. And that kind of knowledge is not really teaching in the university at the moment. Our Buddhist society, the monastery used to be function of this kind of education. People learn to cultivate themselves, learn to understand meaning of life, and care for deeper relationship. So if university is to survive in the next century, its function have to change. It's no longer a higher vocational training center as it had been in the past. It has to have a strong spiritual dimension and strong ecological dimension. I mean, in the past 500 years, slowly we destroying the planet Earth. Now, how to restore it? I think this is where university have to be actively.
Like what about the old people who just got their MBA or PhD are the key people who destroy the earth.
Yes,
Not the other people.
yes, exactly. In my country, we need a different kind of education that give different kind of mindset to our younger generation to restore the earth, to restore community, restore family. Human happiness doesn't only depends on convenience. Of course, some of the modern technology is helpful, but we need a critical selection. But the basic, more important aspect of education is this kind of education we have long time ago. Perennial, it's never die. Self-cultivation, knowing yourself, develop compassion, reduce your self-centeredness, reduce your ego. If university have any meaning in the future, have to do this function. These two functions. First, spirituality. Secondly, ecologically. Self-cultivation, meditation practice, the zebra, train yourself to restrain yourself from harming yourself and others. Yeah, and then meditation develop your strength of your mind, clarity of your mind, and then cultivate your wisdom. Understand life beyond self. There are much more in life beyond self. This is what I mean by spirituality.
Yes.
And this is not only confined to Buddhism. I think if we look deeply, Christianity also have this, Islam also have this, many other religions also have this. More or less strong in one part or strong in other part. I think for the future we have to differentiate between religion and spirituality. People have to understand the ecosystem much deeper than we have been doing. We have to understand deeply, how our action can effect, impact. In what I have said so far is more about the content.
Yeah.
So the method of learning also very important.
Yeah.
The pedagogy. You know, in the past, mostly we learn through lecturing. You know, giving lecture, and I
Until
feel
now.
that's not education. You know, that indoctrination. I think education is, first of all, we have to learn to make decisions. Making decision is education. Vital aspect of education. Without taking care of these aspects, you know, other things you talk about meaningless. And real education is also self-cultivation. Without training yourself seriously, you don't have any kind of education. So, training yourself in terms of developing your meditation, training yourself in terms of restrain yourself from harming yourself and others, you know, developing the non-self perspective of life. This you need a deep self-cultivation. Other people cannot impose that on you. You cannot be indoctrinated. You cannot be brainwashed to do this sort of deeper self-understanding. That's why communism failed. Unfortunately, they lack this aspect of education. In other words, university has to be a community. It should be a community. It should not be too big. Everyone should know everyone else in the university. You should have a lot of small universities, not a huge one. Decentralized, and everyone know everyone else. The number of students should not be too big. A few hundred at most, so that a real relationship can develop, can be cultivated, like a village. Yeah, it should be like a village, and also should not separate themselves from ordinary life. I think your learning is not only in the campus, but in the community, in the jungle, in the forest as well. Like spending time in the forest is so important to understand nature deeply.
I see. Like learning should not be limited to the classroom only, and
Not
should
only the
go
classroom,
beyond.
not only the campus, but the world. And I think students should be encouraged to travel, explore the world, explore your own country. Most students don't understand their own country. Don't really see from the village to the palace. Singapore is an example of, uprooted community. Materially, they are very successful. City is clean, full of technology, etc., etc. But people who live there tell me that this city is soulless. and they learn in the school. They learn English. They don't learn Chinese. They don't learn Malay. They don't learn Hindi. This is really uprooting. If you are Chinese and you don't know Chinese language, you lost your root. you become someone uprooted. By traveling, you know different cultures in your own countries, different subcultures. You learn the ecosystem, you know, by traveling, and you learn how to be human. Traveling is important for young people, especially traveling like pilgrimage, you know, not like a tourist. If you're a tourist, you learn nothing. You learn only what people want to show you. But if you are pilgrimage, you know, you walk on foot from Loigor to Yangon, you learn so much, all the way to Pago, to the sea, you know, you learn so much. Biking is also important. You can help organize Southeast Asian bike. Before COVID, we plan to bike China, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thai, Burma, you know, make a circle.
Mekong regional bike.
Yes, Mekong regional bike. Starting from Shangri-La.
From China.
Yeah, Shangri-La, where big river came from there, you know. Yangtze, Irrawaddy, Salawin, Brahmaputra, you know. I think in your country as well in my country, though we have been destroyed so much by modernization, there are still sustainable living community, more in your country than mine, and we should learn from them instead of learn from New York or London. We learn from these villages in the forest, and our sustainability is not forest without people. Forest, you can live together harmoniously. In my country, you know, Korean people, they live in that forest for hundreds of years, and the government declared as an A-grade natural forest. They live there for hundreds of years, and the government want to kick them out. This is a bad idea. You know, learning from America. The people cannot live in the forest. This is terrible. Indigenous people everywhere live in the forest, and that harmony relationship between human and environment, that is sustainability. Sustainability is not only nature without human beings. Human being, bird, snakes, everything have to be together. You know, have to live together. I think this is, instead of always looking from outside or looking from the west, we looking inside our society, our neighboring countries. Lots of good practice.
Good point.
When you talk about sustainable, it's not only ecology, human being as well, animal as well. We have to live together. And big areas develop technology that doesn't harm. Technology that doesn't harm nature. I think for the future, the first thing that when they graduated, they should be able to earn their living without being employed. Because employment will be less and less. How can you live without employment?
Very challenging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. University is a place that you have to learn how to make a good living. Secondly, your living have to be in harmony with nature. You know, sensitive about what you eat, what you use, you know, what you throw away. Maybe any plastic should not be thrown into the garbage. Our graduates have to understand the structure of the society systematically, able to know why China is fighting with America, why the war of hegemony is ongoing. Because their dispute affect us, in the village as well. So we have to understand the world and understand our own society, our own history. Why Burmese become so chauvinistic? But it's our weakness. Why? Etc. etc. Why there's a civil war going on for 60 years? New generation have to understand that, have to go beyond their parents' pattern of thinking. And understand the delicate ecological system. Why this season the fish have insect a lot to eat. How they related to the moon, the sun, the star, all this interrelated. We are breathing the air of the dinosaur, billions of years ago. So this natural system we need to understand deeply and appreciate it. Unlike our ancestors don't need to understand it because they respect it. They don't destroy it easily.
Yeah, my research is also looking at the Myanmar context and how Myanmar society want to see our sustainable future and how ESD, education for sustainable development, can be integrated in the reconstruction of let's go like new university.
Yes, exactly
in Myanmar.
And our
We can't copy all the UNESCO guidelines and things from the West. Yeah, that's why I try to explore these things. And I like your point that we also need to look at some village communities in the forest in Shan State.
Yes.
They have been living harmoniously, sustainable way with nature.
And also, I think our graduates need to understand themselves, know themselves deeply, what they are good at. Some may be good at being starting some pioneer stuff. Some may be good at being a politicians to change the structure of the society. Some may be good at the civil servants that you can serve. Some may be good at being merchants, being trader. Some may be good at agriculture. But all need to work together to change for sustainability. But the knowledge where you belong, in the universe have to be very clear. Not only going up to the top, of the social ladder is useless. You don't need to go to the top to be happy, to be valuable.
So thank you so much, Pracha.
Most welcome.
Covers a
I
lot.
hope it is helpful.
Yeah, it is very helpful. Maybe find out proof editing can be Jane. My Aja. She's very smart in editing.